The massive ship appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. One moment the skies were clear, monitored by the usual network of satellites and space stations. The next moment, a vessel larger than anything humans had ever built hung silently above the planet. Global panic lasted exactly 6 hours before the aliens made contact. They called themselves the Galactic Council, a union of 23 intelligent species who govern most of the known universe. They came in peace, they said. They wished to welcome humanity to the galactic community. John Miller watched the alien transmission for the 5th time in his office at the United Nations. As Earth's newly appointed ambassador to alien life, his shoulders carried the weight of humanity's future. The aliens looked almost human, except for their bluish skin and eyes that were too large, too knowing. "They're hiding something," John said to Susan Clark, who stood by the window. Susan turned away from the view of New York City. As captain of Earth's first interplanetary defense vessel, she had been chosen alongside John to represent humanity in the upcoming negotiations. "You've been saying that since the first transmission," Susan replied. "But their offer seems genuine. Technology beyond our dreams, protection from cosmic threats, a place in their council. What more could we ask for?" John rubbed his tired eyes. "It's too good. No one gives away that much without wanting something substantial in return." The next day, John and Susan boarded a shuttle to meet the alien delegation. Their craft looked tiny next to the council ship. Inside, they were greeted by beings from several different species. Leading them was High Counselor Zex Tran, tall and elegant with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like oil on water. "Welcome, children of Earth," Zex Tran said, voice smooth and pleasant in their translated earpieces. "We have watched your species for many cycles. Your potential is great." The council representatives showed them technology that seemed like magic, ships that could travel between stars in days, medical devices that could cure almost any disease, energy sources that would end Earth's resource problems forever. "All this can be yours," Zex Tran explained as they toured the massive ship. "We ask only for your cooperation and partnership. Earth has unique resources that would benefit the Council." When John asked about the details of these resources, the aliens changed the subject smoothly. When he inquired about other species who had joined the Council recently, they spoke only of success stories. Later, alone in their guest quarters, John voiced his concerns to Susan. "Did you notice how they never directly answered questions about what they want from Earth, or how they dodged explaining the Council's voting structure?" Susan nodded slowly. "I noticed, but what choice do we have? We're alone in the universe without their protection, and the technology they're offering could solve climate change, hunger, disease." "I know," John sighed. "I just wish we knew their true intentions." Unknown to the humans, in another part of the ship, the council members were having their own discussion. "The humans are more perceptive than we expected," said Kreldor, the security minister. "The male ambassador suspects our true purpose." Zex Tran waved a dismissive hand. "It doesn't matter. They're primitive and desperate for advancement. They'll sign our treaty, and by the time they realize what it truly means, it will be too late. Their military capabilities are concerning," another council member noted. "Their history is filled with violence. If they ever developed interstellar capabilities independently, which is precisely why we approached them now," Zex Tran replied. "We will give them enough technology to satisfy their curiosity, while ensuring they remain dependent on us. Their resources will fuel our expansion for centuries, and their people will serve the Council without ever realizing they've been conquered." 2 weeks later, despite John's reservations, Earth signed the treaty joining the Galactic Council. Celebrations erupted across the planet. A new age of prosperity and advancement had begun, people believed. John stood on the observation deck, watching Earth grow smaller as the Council ship prepared to take him and Susan to the Council homeworld for orientation. The pit in his stomach wouldn't go away. He had done his best to negotiate protections for Earth, but he couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just made a terrible mistake. They were walking into a trap they couldn't see, and he had no proof, only instinct. He hoped he was wrong. He truly did. But he wasn't. 5 years passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council. At first, things seemed wonderful. Council technology cured diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. Clean energy replaced fossil fuels. Hunger became a memory as food production soared. But slowly, things changed. Lisa Williams noticed it first. As a data analyst for Earth's diplomatic corps, her job was to track resource exchanges between Earth and the Council. The numbers didn't add up. "Look at this," Lisa said to her boss, pointing at her screen. "Iron exports to Council worlds up 300% this quarter. Rare earth minerals up 250%. Water shipments doubled. But technology imports from the Council down 40%. Her boss shrugged. The Council explained that. Technical difficulties with their production facilities. Lisa frowned. They'd been saying that for 8 months. Later that week, Lisa received access to a new data feed, shipping manifests that hadn't been properly encrypted. What she found made her blood run cold. The Council wasn't sending Earth's resources to their claimed destinations. Instead, massive stockpiles were building up in secret bases near the edge of Council space. Military bases. Lisa knew she couldn't go to her superiors. Too many Earth officials worshipped the Council blindly. Instead, she reached out to Admiral Frank Johnson, commander of Earth's defense fleet, and one of the few leaders who had remained skeptical of the Council's intentions. They met in an old park outside Washington, D.C. No recording devices, no witnesses. "This confirms what we've suspected," Admiral Johnson said after reviewing her data. "Did you notice they've limited our colony expansion to 3 systems? There are 14 habitable planets within easy reach, but the Council only permitted us to settle 3. Lisa nodded. "And they placed heavy restrictions on our ship designs. Restrictions they don't follow themselves," Johnson added. "I've had engineers secretly examining Council ships during maintenance cycles. Their weapons are far more advanced than what they've shared with us." "What do we do?" Lisa asked. Johnson's face hardened. "We prepare." Quietly. For months, Lisa fed information to Johnson while maintaining her position at the diplomatic corps. She discovered more troubling signs. Council peacekeepers increasing on Earth colonies, trade restrictions tightening, and human representatives losing voting power in Council decisions. Then Lisa found something truly alarming. A Council directive classifying humans as a Category 3 potentially hostile species, subject to population management protocols. When Earth representatives asked about strange new restrictions, the Council placated them with vague promises and minor concessions. Behind closed doors, Council leaders discussed how to handle the increasingly troublesome humans. "They're becoming too aware," High Councilor Zex Tran said during a private session with the Council's inner circle. "The analyst Williams and Admiral Johnson are particularly problematic." "Should we remove them?" asked Kreldor. "Not yet. Too obvious. Instead, implement the next phase. Increase military presence at the Mars colony. Cite security concerns. Begin resource extraction ahead of schedule." On Earth, Admiral Johnson gathered trusted officers in a secure underground facility. The room was shielded from all surveillance. "We've confirmed the Council's true intentions," he told them grimly. "They see us as cattle, a resource to be harvested. They allowed us into space only to better control us." He activated a holographic display showing secret shipyards hidden in asteroid belts and beneath Earth's oceans. "We've been building ships with our own modifications, weapons systems the Council doesn't know about. Shields based on technology we've reversed engineered and improved." One officer raised her hand. "Sir, if the Council discovers this, they'll claim we violated the treaty." "We have," Johnson admitted, "but they violated it first. The treaty promised partnership. What we got was slow conquest." That night, Lisa received an urgent encrypted message from her source on Mars. Council ships had arrived in orbit, dozens of them. The official explanation was a peacekeeping mission, but no one had requested peacekeepers. Lisa rushed to Johnson's office with the news. "They're moving faster than we expected." Johnson's face was grim. "Then so must we. Contact our people on Mars. Tell them to be ready for anything." Neither of them knew that anything would arrive sooner than expected. The next day, Mars would run red with human blood, and the Council would finally reveal its true face. Governor Paul Green of the Mars colony stood at the viewport of the main dome, watching Council ships fill the red sky. 20 vessels now orbited Mars, their sleek shapes casting long shadows across the dusty plains when they passed before the sun. "They claimed they're here to protect us," Paul said to his security chief. "But from what? Mars has been peaceful since we established the colony." The security chief, a former military man named Dan Wright, frowned. "Their troops are positioning around all major water processing facilities and resource centers. That's not protection. That's occupation." The Mars colony was home to over 50,000 humans. They had built a life on the harsh red planet, creating habitats, farms, and even the beginnings of an atmosphere in some protected valleys. It was humanity's proudest achievement, proof they could live beyond Earth. That afternoon, Paul called a community meeting in the Central Dome. Nearly 5,000 colonists packed the space, faces worried. "The Council says these troops are temporary," Paul told the crowd. "But I've received no clear answer about when they'll leave or why they're really here. I propose a peaceful demonstration to show our concerns." The next morning, 10,000 colonists gathered outside the main Council ship's landing zone. They carried signs asking for answers, for respect, for the Council to honor the treaty that promised Earth independence in its own system. Inside the Council ship, Commander Vexcor watched the growing crowd with cold eyes. "The humans are becoming problematic," he said to his officers. "The High Council has authorized Protocol 87 if necessary." "Sir," his second-in-command said hesitantly, "Protocol 87 is extreme. These are unarmed civilians." "These are potential rebels," Vexcor replied, "and examples must be made." On the ground, Paul approached the ship with a small delegation. He carried no weapons, only a tablet with a formal petition requesting a meeting with Council representatives. "We simply wish to understand the purpose of this military presence," Paul called out toward the ship's communication devices. "We have been loyal members of the Council. We deserve answers." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship's weapons ports opened. "Disperse immediately," a cold voice announced. "This gathering violates Council security directives." Paul stood his ground. "We have the right to peaceful assembly under the treaty." "We." The first energy blast hit the ground near Paul's feet, sending colonists running and screaming. The second hit a habitat dome behind them. The third struck the main water processing plant. After that, the Council ships opened fire on all major Mars infrastructure. Habitat domes collapsed. Air escaped into the thin Martian atmosphere. Emergency sirens wailed as colonists fled to bunkers and emergency shelters. Paul was dragged to safety by his security team, watching in horror as the colony he had helped build burned. "They're targeting civilians," Dan shouted over the chaos. "The emergency shelters, the schools. They're targeting everything." The attack lasted 22 minutes. When it ended, nearly 8,000 colonists were dead. Thousands more were injured. Half the colony lay in ruins. On Earth, Lisa Williams watched the footage in horror. The Council had claimed their feeds from Mars were down due to technical difficulties, but underground resistance networks had managed to capture and transmit the truth. "They're calling it the Mars Massacre," Lisa told Admiral Johnson as they watched the destruction. "The Council is blaming it on a rogue commander. They say he misinterpreted orders and will be punished." Johnson's face was like stone. "And the colonists? What about their punishment?" The official Council statement offered regrets for the unfortunate incident and promised aid to rebuild. But they also announced increased security measures for all human settlements to prevent further unrest. That night, encrypted messages flew between Earth, the surviving Mars colonists, and the other human settlements. No words of surrender. No pleas for mercy. Instead, a single phrase repeated again and again: "Remember Mars." In his private chambers, Admiral Johnson sent orders to activate all hidden shipyards. The time for secrecy was ending. The time for action was near. On Mars, survivors buried their dead in the red soil. Governor Paul Green, his face bandaged, his right arm gone, made a simple vow as he stood before the mass grave. This will not stand. The Council had finally pushed too far. 2 years after the Mars massacre, Earth seemed to have accepted defeat. Council ships patrolled Earth's orbit. Council officials oversaw human governments. Humans worked in Council factories and mines across the solar system. On the surface, humanity had been tamed. But beneath that surface, resistance burned like fire. Deep within the asteroid belt, inside a hollowed-out space rock designated only as Point Omega, General Diane Russell inspected the newest addition to humanity's secret fleet. The ship was unlike anything in the official Earth Defense Forces. Its hull incorporated both human ingenuity and stolen Council technology. "How many now?" she asked the chief engineer beside her. 42 combat-ready vessels," he replied. "Another 17 in final assembly. We've managed to improve the shield generators by 30% over Council standards." Diane nodded with grim satisfaction. After Mars, she had been given command of humanity's shadow fleet. For 2 years, they had built in secret while pretending to comply with Council demands. "And they suspect nothing?" she asked. "Our stealth systems have kept this base hidden. The Council believes we're mining these asteroids, not building warships inside them." Similar preparations were happening across the solar system. On Earth, beneath the Pacific Ocean, scientists worked in underwater facilities developing weapons that could penetrate Council shields. On Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon, programmers created viruses that could infect Council navigation systems. Dr. Alan Martinez led the most critical project of all. In a hidden lab beneath the Atacama Desert, he had made a breakthrough the Council believed impossible. "The quantum shield works," he told Diane over a secure transmission. "We tested it against captured Council weapons. It held." This was the advantage humanity needed. Council ships used standard energy shields, but Alan had developed something new. A defensive system that existed partly in another dimension, making it nearly impenetrable to conventional weapons. While scientists and soldiers prepared in secret, diplomat Nicole Peterson kept the Council distracted. As Earth's official representative, she attended endless meetings, filed countless reports, and raised minor objections that required mountains of paperwork to resolve. "The humans have become quite cooperative lately," High Counselor Zex Tran observed during a Council meeting. "Though this Peterson woman asks too many questions." "She is harmless," another counselor replied. "She merely follows human procedures." But the Council was not entirely fooled. Suspicions grew as certain resources vanished from supply chains and unusual energy readings appeared briefly in remote regions. "Increase surveillance on all human military personnel," Zex Tran ordered, "especially those who served under Admiral Johnson before his unfortunate accident." The Council believed Admiral Johnson had died in a shuttle crash 6 months after Mars. In reality, he now commanded humanity's resistance from a base hidden on Pluto's dark side. The plan was almost ready. Human ships with the new shields, weapons the Council had never seen, computer viruses waiting to activate, and most importantly, allies. Not all species in the Galactic Council were happy with how humans had been treated. Some had suffered similar fates centuries ago. Nicole had secretly contacted sympathetic members from these races, building a network of potential support for when humanity finally made its move. The Council's patience with humanity was running thin. Resources from Earth were not meeting quotas. Population centers were becoming restless despite increased security. "Perhaps we should implement final protocols," Krull suggested to Zex Tran. "The human problem has persisted too long." "Yes," Zex Tran agreed. Prepare the population reduction directive. We will announce it next cycle. They had no idea they had just signed their own defeat. Human surveillance had intercepted this conversation. The Council was planning to eliminate 30% of Earth's population to make humans more manageable. It would be their final mistake. In Point Omega, General Diane Russell received the intelligence and immediately sent the coded message that resistance cells across the solar system had been waiting for. Sundown. The time for hiding was over. The time for humanity to show its true strength had come. President Eric Bennett prepared his address to Earth and all human colonies. After 2 years of planning in shadows, humanity would step into the light, and the Galactic Council would discover just how badly they had underestimated their newest subjects. President Eric Bennett stood before the camera in the Oval Office. His face was stern but calm. Outside, Council ships hung in the sky like silent threats. Unknown to the aliens, every human on Earth and across the colonies was about to watch this broadcast. Resistance technicians had taken control of all communication networks for these crucial minutes. People of Earth and our colonies, Eric began. For 7 years we have lived under the rule of the Galactic Council. We were promised partnership. We were promised prosperity. We were promised a place among the stars. The camera zoomed in closer. Those promises were lies. In homes, shelters, work camps, and hidden bases, humans watched in silence. 2 years ago, 8,000 of our people were murdered on Mars. The Council called it an accident. It was not. It was a message that our lives mean nothing to them. Eric's voice grew stronger. Today, I received proof that the Council plans to reduce Earth's population by 30%. 3 billion people marked for death to make us easier to control. He paused, letting the horror of this sink in. I say no more. As of this moment, Earth withdraws from all treaties with the Galactic Council. We will not bargain. We will not negotiate. We will accept nothing less than full independence. On the Council mothership orbiting Earth, alarms blared as they detected the unauthorized broadcast. High Counselor Zex Tran watched with growing rage. Shut it down, he ordered, and prepare the fleet. These humans have sealed their fate. But Council technicians couldn't stop the broadcast. Every attempt to break the signal failed. Meanwhile, Eric continued. For 2 years we have prepared in secret. We have built ships. We have developed weapons. We have made allies. The Council believes us weak and obedient. They are wrong. In that moment, across the solar system, hidden human ships emerged from asteroids, moons, and cloud cover on gas giants. On Earth, anti-spacecraft weapons rose from ocean depths and mountain hideaways. To the Council forces currently in our system, Eric said, his voice deadly serious, you have 1 hour to withdraw. Any Council ship remaining after that time will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. Zex Tran laughed when he heard this ultimatum. They have lost their minds. What can they possibly do against our fleet? He ordered all Council ships to converge on Earth. They would crush this rebellion immediately and make an example of these troublesome humans once and for all. The Council attack fleet numbered 200 vessels. They expected no real resistance. Humans had only 30 official defense ships, all built to Council-approved standards. What they didn't expect were the 60 advanced warships that suddenly appeared from hidden bases. Led by Admiral Johnson, long believed dead, they moved to protect Earth. Council vessels, Johnson broadcast, you were warned. Earth is now sovereign territory. Withdraw or face the consequences. The Council fleet opened fire, expecting to quickly overwhelm the human defenses. Instead, their weapons splashed harmlessly against the new quantum shields. The Council commanders were shocked. This technology should be impossible for humans to develop. Human ships returned fire with weapons the Council had never seen before. Instead of standard energy beams, these weapons fired projectiles that existed partly in another dimension, bypassing Council shields entirely. In orbit around Earth, a battle raged that would change the galaxy forever. Council ships, despite their superior numbers, began to fall one by one. Human vessels, smaller but more maneuverable, executed combat patterns the Council had never encountered. On the surface, people watched the lights of battle flash in the sky. After years of oppression, humanity was fighting back. In his command ship, Admiral Johnson received reports from across the system. Mars Defense Grid online. Jupiter stations reporting Council retreats. Saturn Outpost has captured 3 Council vessels. For the first time in 7 years, Johnson allowed himself a smile. The Council had always seen humans as primitive, dangerous, but manageable. They were right about one thing: humans were dangerous. But they had severely underestimated just how dangerous when pushed too far. By the battle's end, over half the Council fleet was destroyed or captured. The remaining ships retreated in disarray, fleeing the system they had thought firmly under control. The Galactic Council had just learned a painful lesson. Humanity would no longer bargain. News of Earth's victory spread quickly through the galaxy. Species that had suffered under Council rule for centuries watched with growing hope. If humans could stand against the Council, perhaps others could too. Commander Laura White studied the star map in her ship's command center. The newly commissioned vessel, Freedom, was humanity's first true diplomatic warship, built for peace but ready for war. "Our mission is clear," Laura told her crew. "We need allies. Earth stood alone in our first battle, but we can't win a war against the entire Council by ourselves." The Freedom's first destination was the Valorian homeworld. The Valorians were a proud warrior race who had been forced into the Council 3 centuries ago. Once rulers of a dozen systems, they now controlled only their home planet, their military dismantled by Council peacekeeping restrictions. When the Freedom arrived in orbit around the rocky world of Valor, Council ships immediately moved to intercept. "Human vessel," came the Council transmission. "You are in restricted space. Leave immediately or be destroyed." Laura smiled. "This is Commander Laura White of Earth. We are here on a diplomatic mission to meet with the Valorian High Command. Interfere, and you will be considered hostile." The Council ships hesitated. News of what had happened to their fleet at Earth had reached them. They were not eager to test these new human weapons. On the planet below, Valorian General Kruvak received word of the human ship. For decades, he had led a quiet resistance against Council rule. Now, potential allies had arrived. "Bring them down," he ordered his staff. "Avoid Council detection." Using old smuggling routes, Laura and a small team were shuttled to the Valorian capital. There, in an underground chamber, she met with Kruvak and his war council. "Humans," the tall, gray-skinned general said, "you have impressed us. The Council called you primitive, yet you defeated their fleet." Laura nodded. "We hid our true strength, as I suspect you have done as well." Kruvak's eyes narrowed. "What do you propose?" "Alliance," Laura said simply. "Earth fights for freedom. We believe others should have the same." She activated a holographic display showing human ship designs. "We offer technology, weapons, ships. In return, we ask for your warriors to join our cause." The Valorians studied the designs with growing interest. For centuries, they had been forced to hide their military traditions, to pretend to be peaceful. Now, humans offered them a chance to be warriors again. "The Council keeps our warships disabled," Kruvak said. "Their control chips prevent weapons from functioning." Laura smiled. "We've developed a way to neutralize those chips." While Laura negotiated with the Valorians, Dr. Kevin Howard led another mission to the Xilani system. The Xilani were masters of biotechnology, forced by the Council to produce medical supplies, while denied the right to advance their own society. Kevin's team brought with them human medical research and genetic studies, areas where humans had made great advances. In return, they sought Xilani bioweapons that could disable Council ships without destroying them. "Your species is young," the Xilani leader told Kevin, her translucent skin shifting colors as she spoke. "Yet you challenged the Council when races far older have failed." "We had no choice," Kevin replied. They plan to kill billions of our people, as they have done to others, the Xilani said sadly. Slowly, quietly, over centuries. Population control, they call it. By the end of the meeting, the Xilani had agreed to join the human alliance. Their bioweapons would be crucial in the coming conflict. Across the galaxy, similar meetings took place. Species that had suffered under council rule for generations now saw a chance for freedom. Some joined openly. Others provided secret support, afraid of council retribution. On the council homeworld, emergency sessions were held. The rebellion was spreading faster than they could contain it. These humans must be stopped, Zextran declared. Gather our main fleet. We will crush Earth and make such an example of them that no species will dare rebel again for 1,000 years. What the Council didn't realize was that human spy networks had already infiltrated their communications. Every plan they made was known to Earth within hours. And as the Council gathered their fleet, the alliance grew stronger. Freedom, once just a distant dream for many species, now seemed possible. All because humanity had refused to bargain when pushed too far. Not all members of the Galactic Council supported the harsh treatment of Earth and other species. Some had voted against the Mars attack. Others had argued for true partnership rather than exploitation. But the dominant Exorian faction, led by Zextran, had overruled them all. Councillor Trelnar, representative of the Lumari people, had long disagreed with council policies. The Lumari were philosophers and scientists who believed in cooperation. For years, Trelnar had tried to change the council from within. He had failed. Now, as the council prepared its massive fleet to attack Earth, Trelnar made a decision that would change galactic history. He reached out to human diplomat Steve Patterson in secret. They met on a neutral trading station in the Cygnus sector. Steve arrived disguised as a merchant. Trelnar came alone, without his usual council security. What I am about to do is considered treason, Trelnar said once they were in a secure room. But I cannot stand by while the council destroys another civilization. He handed Steve a data crystal. The council fleet will attack through the Proxima Centauri system in 15 days. This contains their exact battle plans, shield frequencies, and command codes. Steve stared at the crystal. Why are you helping us? Because the council has become what it was formed to prevent, a tyranny. The Exorians control everything now. Many of us want change, but are afraid to speak. How many would stand with you? Steve asked. 11 species might break from the council if given the chance. 3 have hidden fleets similar to what humans built. This information changed everything. Earth and its new allies had been preparing for a desperate defense. Now they could plan an ambush. Admiral Johnson called an emergency meeting with representatives from all allied species. The Valorians, the Exilani, and dozens of others gathered on the human station Fortitude, hidden in the asteroid belt of Proxima Centauri. The Council believes they're launching a surprise attack, Johnson explained, displaying the battle plans Trelnar had provided. Instead, we'll be waiting for them. General Kruvak of the Valorians studied the plans. 300 council ships against our combined 150. Even with your advanced technology, those are difficult odds. Not if Councillor Trelnar is correct about others joining our cause, Johnson replied. We've sent messages to all 11 species he named. We need to hold the council forces long enough for them to make their decision. The battle plan took shape. Human ships with their quantum shields would form the front line. Valorian attack cruisers would strike from the flanks. Xilani bioships would release their specialized weapons to disable rather than destroy council vessels. On the council homeworld, High Councillor Zextran addressed the full council. The human rebellion must be crushed completely, he declared. Their destruction will serve as a warning to all who might consider defying us. Councillor Trelnar stood. Perhaps we should consider negotiation. Humans have shown remarkable capabilities. They could be valuable true partners rather than subjects. Zextran's eyes narrowed. The time for debate is over. The fleet launches tomorrow. Any council member who opposes this action will be considered sympathetic to rebellion. The threat silenced open dissent, but private communications flew between council members that night. Lines were being drawn. The massive council fleet entered the Proxima Centauri system 3 days later, expecting to find a few human outposts. Instead, they faced a battle-ready alliance. The space around the system's fourth planet became a storm of weapons fire, shields flaring, and ships maneuvering. Admiral Johnson commanded from his flagship, watching as the initial exchange went exactly as expected. Council ships were powerful, but predictable. The Alliance forces had studied their tactics and knew their weaknesses. Then the unexpected happened. As the battle reached its peak, 3 Council fleet divisions suddenly turned their weapons on other Council ships. The communication channels filled with declarations of independence as the captains announced they no longer recognized Axorian authority. The Council fleet fell into chaos. What had been a dangerous but manageable attack became a complete rout as former Council ships joined the Alliance. Ships loyal to Zextran found themselves caught in crossfire from all directions. On his command ship, Zextran watched in disbelief as decades of absolute control crumbled in hours. The Council was fracturing before his eyes. The day would be known as the Battle of Proxima Centauri. It was the beginning of the end for the Galactic Council, as it had existed for centuries. 1 year after the Battle of Proxima Centauri, representatives from 47 species gathered in Geneva, Earth. The old United Nations building had been expanded and redesigned to host this historic meeting. Ships from across the galaxy filled Earth's orbit, not as conquerors but as guests. John Miller, now with gray in his hair and lines on his face, stood at the window watching the delegates arrive. 7 years ago, he had been the first human to meet the Galactic Council. He had sensed their deception from the beginning. Now his suspicions had been proven right, though at a terrible cost. "Hard to believe we've come this far," Susan Clark said, joining him at the window. As captain of Earth's defense fleet, she had fought in 3 major battles against Council loyalists over the past year. "I wish it hadn't required so much death," John replied. "Some things are worth fighting for," Susan said quietly. Inside the Great Hall, President Eric Bennett opened the first session of what would become known as the Galactic Cooperative. "We gather today not as rulers and subjects, but as equals," he began. "The old council claimed to unite species, but instead created an empire. Today, we truly unite, based on principles of sovereignty, mutual defense, and cooperation." The new charter was simple but powerful. All member species would retain control of their home systems. Resources would be traded fairly, not taken. Technology would be shared openly. And no species could interfere in the internal affairs of another without permission. Councillor Trelnar, now representing the free Lumari people, addressed the gathering. For centuries, many of us watched as the council became corrupted by power. Species were added not as partners, but as resources to be exploited. Populations were controlled. Militaries were limited or dismantled, all in the name of peace and security. He looked at the human delegation with respect. It took the courage of humanity to show us another way. They refused to accept subjugation. They fought not just for themselves, but for all oppressed peoples. And when victory was theirs, they did not seek revenge, but justice. Not everyone had joined the new cooperative. The Axorians and their closest allies had retreated to their core systems, refusing to acknowledge the new galactic order. They remained dangerous, building new fleets and threatening to restore the Council's rule. Admiral Johnson, now head of the cooperative's combined defense forces, had spent months preparing for their expected counterattack. "Our intelligence suggests they'll make one final attempt to break us," he told the Security Council after the main session. "They believe if they can defeat Earth, the Alliance will crumble." General Kruvak of the Valorian smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Let them come. The cooperative fleet is 3 times larger than what we had at Proxima Centauri." The attack came 3 days later. Axorian forces struck not at Earth, but at the newly liberated Valorian homeworld, hoping to draw cooperative forces into a trap. Instead, they found the combined might of the cooperative waiting for them. Human quantum shields protected Silani bioships. Valorian cruisers flew alongside vessels from a dozen other species. What the Exorians had planned as a crushing blow became their final defeat. When it was over, the remnants of the old council surrendered unconditionally. The age of Exorian dominance was finished. 1 month later, John Miller sat in his new office in the cooperative headquarters. As humanity's chosen representative, he had a central role in building this new galactic community. On his desk sat a piece of red Martian rock, a reminder of why they had fought. Outside his window, ships from across the galaxy came and went freely. Scientists from 20 species collaborated in the new research center across the plaza. In orbit, the first cooperative peacekeeping vessels prepared for their mission, not to control or intimidate, but to genuinely keep peace among the stars. Ambassador Miller, his assistant, called. "The Education Committee is ready for you." John smiled. Creating new schools where children from all species could learn together was his personal project. The future would belong to them, a future where different worlds work together, rather than conquering each other. As he walked to the meeting, John reflected on humanity's journey. They had gone from naive newcomers to nearly conquered subjects to leaders of a new galactic age. All because when pushed too far, humanity had refused to bargain, and in doing so, had changed the galaxy forever.